Hello, Grant from Maker's Vlog, and today you're at a different angle. I know, it's strange. Actually, I need to look there, not here. You're a different angle. This is the other way around. You are where I normally stand, and I am normally where the camera's sitting. Reason being, I'm on the bench today. I got a lot of kits in. So, like these here, these are Pixie kits. So they're HF radios for 40 meters, so very cool. I'm not making them, well, I might be making these today, but not in this video. So I've got a load of kits in, and I'm going to be making them, and I'm trying to work out a good angle for this because I record off my phone. I just use my my Samsung, and you're actually on the front camera, so if the quality, the video quality is a bit different, that's why. Reason being, I wanted to be able to see the screen so that I can see and make sure that you can see all the circuit boards and stuff. So we'll see. I'll maneuver the camera about, see where it fits best. Also, I actually have a guest today. Let me see if you can see him. I'll just ignore the mess. Yeah, that little guy. I don't know how well you could see him there. That is a little hare. One of my cats, well, one of the cats is missing. He's away out exploring somewhere. But the other cat, Dobby, he's decided to bring home some hares. He brought home one. It was dead. He had killed it, and then there was that guy. He brought him home like half an hour later, and he was still alive, so I've got him. Spoke to a animal charity, so someone's coming to pick him up, because apparently since he's been nabbed by the cat and now handled by me getting him off him, the mum won't take him back, and he's only a baby, or she, I don't know. So yes, special guest, Mr. Rabbit. He's not actually a rabbit, as he's a hare, so I don't know, you can name him in the comments, see what you like. I need to look here, I need to look at that. Right, so what I'm actually building. So I had two Pixie kits arrive, that's the other one. They are cheap, cheerful, they're about 2 beer tokens each. Then I have some better quality stuff. This one that you've already seen, this wee circuit board, this is a Kier, and it is for this little kit here. And this is Morse code paddles. If you've seen them, they're 2 prongs that stick out, and you press one side for dits and the other side for das, and it does the timing automatically for you. So you just squeeze what you want. In order to do that, you need a keyer, which actually handles the spacing between them. So that's what that's for. I don't know Morse code at the minute, but I'm in the process of learning it, because in amateur radios are really fucking expensive. So with these kits you can build your own, and I'm also working on a schematic at the minute to make my own PCB for a 40 meters, which is a band, an HF band, a 40 meters double sideband suppressed carrier voice transmitter, and it's based off the Pixie kits, using them as a base and then modding them after that. But I hate using prototyping boards, which are just they're like PCBs just with loads of holes in them, and you put them through and do it that way. I really don't like using them, so I've got the schematics, I've pieced them together, and I'm just going to make a PCB, or get a PCB printed. They're very cheap to get done, so I won't lose any sleep over it. But I've hit a bit of a snag with that at the minute, just because I've never actually designed a PCB properly before. Done a few wee things, so I'm learning while I'm doing it. So it'll take a while. Jeez, what's going on here? Let's fold that down. So the one that I'm making today is the Kier. I forgot a kit. So you can tell this is completely unscripted. This is just me soldering, and I thought I'd fucking do it. And yes, believe it or not, the other videos are, I say scripted. I know what I'm going to say in them, and I have them in my head. This is just, I'm literally just sat down. this. This is QRP Labs CW transceiver, another Morse code transceiver, but this is a lot better quality than the Pixie kits, and has a lot more features. Now, I don't know when I'm going to start it because there's a lot to it. It's a big build, so it'll take quite a while to make. So I will be doing that at some point. So yeah, let's just get started with the bits and pieces here. Now, where is the best place to put this camera? There's that. Okay, right, that I think is as good as we're going to get. I need a better recording setup. I really do. So I've got my handy dandy grips which hold the PCB in place, and the PCB itself. Look at this side. That there. So I mean, it's quite a nice, good quality board. Let me get something to point with that isn't my manky nails. Yeah, you'll do. So you get your two jacks. Put you there. Two jacks there and there. Speaker. A couple of diodes and ICs. And that is about it. I don't even think there's a resistor in this kit. No resistors. It's just diodes, a couple of capacitors and an IC, so it's a simple circuit. I wanted to start with this one first because I am going to build the actual paddle today as well, but it'll be in another video for you. But I wanted to get warmed up because this is apparently on their difficulty rating that they have, this is a 2, which is apparently quite simple. And the paddle itself is quite a high difficulty, and from what I've read, it's because the kit itself doesn't have a lot of electronics on it. It's just everything needs to be just so. It needs to be just in the right spot for it to work well. So we'll see how it goes. So just get my soldering iron up to temperature. You might notice different soldering iron. I do actually have a review of the Parkside one that I got. So D1, D2 is in here, and it's not great. So it's not. It's really not great. So just as an aside, this is just going to be me soldering and waffling crap for this one. The other ones I might do a bit more better scripted. I might actually show you how it's done properly. For this, so the schematic has told me to put D1 and D2, which are these little glass. Is that going to focus? Come on, focus. Okay, phone, no auto focus on this side. It's a little glass diode, and it has a little black band on this side, and that just helps tell you the orientation of it. And in this, it is said to put it with down into the hole. There's a little mark on the silk screen on the circuit board which tells you to which end to put it in, and it said to put the black band facing up and bend the pins over and feed them in like that, so that it's sort of going in that way, so it's sticking up. It's a common thing to do on circuit boards, especially when there's not a lot of room. A lot of components do it with resistors, so that you have plenty of room. Okay, and D3, another diode, a little bit different. This one's a black band one rather than the ceramic. Actually, let me get you the... So the two diodes are 1 November 4148 diodes, wee tiny ones, and this one is a 1 November 4001. For anyone who doesn't know, a diode is essentially like a check valve. It will allow electricity to flow in one direction, but it will block it coming from the other. It's used in rectifier circuits a lot to convert AC to DC. So if you picture an AC signal, it goes up and down and up and down, so it goes positive, negative, positive, negative. Whenever you run that through a diode, the positive or negative, depending on what orientation you've got it in, but essentially one half of the sine wave will get through, the other half won't. And that's how you start the process of converting it to DC. And then you can use, as if you think about it, you only get half of the sine wave of the power, so you only get the positive half for sake of argument. What you can do then is if you put a capacitor which stores a small amount of charge and then releases it slowly, well, I say slowly, it releases it. If you put them in there, then it then evens it out, and you end up with essentially a flat line, which is a lot more stable. I believe that's called full bridge rectification. I'm not sure. I'm sure someone in the comments will let me know. Okay, so put the 3 diodes in place. So let's, really I didn't need that in the clamp for this, but well, at least not for that bit. I have very shaky hands. So if you do as well, don't worry. I want me to check with Mr. Rabbit. He's still fine, he's munching away. If you're like me and you have very shaky hands, it's a good thing to, that's a bit manky, let's trim that off. It's a good thing to have a pair of these, they call them helping hands, just to just help keep something stable while you're going at it. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know how to solder, all you do is you put the iron on, heat it, add it in the solder, and that's it. And especially when working with diodes, you want to be relatively quick. Because diodes can be damaged. I put a bit of solder on that. I just covered one of the IC sockets. So, indispensable bit of kit, solder sucker. What you do is you heat up whatever it is you want to heat up. And the solder sucker sucks it away. Done. All that happened there was whenever I was pulling the soldering iron back, a bit of solder blobbed onto one of the other pads and it just closed the hole over. So I needed to clear that so that I can then put the IC socket in that wee boyo on the bottom there. Let's see, how's that? That looks alright. That looks respectable. Cool. And then whenever you're happy with your connections, you just snip off the legs. What I would recommend doing whenever you're snipping off the legs is don't cut them too far down, at least on your first pass. Because if you've made a mistake and you need to change them, it's better to have a bit of the leg left, because then it makes it easier to resolder it once you've corrected your mistake. And then once you're done and you've tested it and you're happy that it works, you can then go through and trim off the extras. Now, I'm very much an advocate of do as I say, not as I do, because I've just trimmed all these down. But that's because I'm stupid. Don't do what I do. Okay, so now I need to install the capacitors, so that's fine. Let's just hold you in one. So this is a 1 microfarad capacitor. It should be marked 104, which it is. I would hold that up, but you'll never see it. These capacitors, these ceramic ones, are non-directional, so they can go either way. Let's see. Where is C1? There it is there. So that goes in there. Whenever you're doing these things, they are just, they're just like doing a jigsaw puzzle. People seem to get concerned with these and they think, oh no, you need to be a wizard to do these, but it's just a jigsaw puzzle. You have a diagram here, you have instructions that tell you put this component here. The only bit that requires any sort of practice is soldering, and it's exactly that. It's just practice. I would recommend, actually, if you were wanting something to practice on, the Pixie kits like I say, they're about 2 beer tokens. You get a ton of components and tons of varying components, so you get a lot of practice soldering the different types. So C2, this is a 10 microfarad, I believe, yep. And this is an electrolytic capacitor, so you see how it's quite bulky, and well, you see that? And you'll also note that the legs are different lengths, and that's because they are, these are directional. You need to have the positive and the negative in the right place for these ones. The long leg is the positive, and there's also a wee grey band that helps tell you the negative as well. So let's see, here we go. Now, some silk screens are really good and have on there the little grey band on the circuit board, so you know, okay, match the grey band up to that. Sometimes they don't. This one just has a positive on it. So you just line the long lead up with that and pop it in. Yeah, and you can bend the legs as well. Some people don't like to. I generally just do it if I think the component's going to fall on its ass. It doesn't really matter. Also, as a fun fact, I would not recommend these helping hands. There's ones out there that have loads of different ones, and they're on like wee legs that are flexible. I would recommend them over this because this is just too unwieldy. I mean, it's better than nothing, don't get me wrong, but it's just a bit unwieldy at times. So heat, okay. So that one is quite close to the other component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the leg off first of this one that I've already soldered, just to get at it. There we go. Make sure you clean your tip as much as you can. That was actually the main complaint about the Parkside soldering station, was the tips after soldering a Pixie kit, which was about 2 hours worth of it was about 2 hours worth of soldering. So in one sitting. Now, I mean, it was marketed as a hobbyist, and you know, 2 hours worth of soldering is not beyond the realms of a hobbyist, because I mean that was one I mean medium-ish sized kit. I would count this as a small kit, this one that I'm doing now, and yeah, the Pixie kit I would say would be a medium-sized kit, and it was about 2 hours-ish. And the heads on the tips were just destroyed. They were eroding away, because there is a thing in solder, or solder if you're American and don't like L's, called flux, and the flux is a rosin that is slightly acidic, and it cleans the surface for you, ready for the solder to flow. And it is acidic and it does damage heads, but the stuff I was using was very weak rosin, so it shouldn't have eroded that much, and I was using a spade bit, sort of similar-ish to that, where it's sort of flat, if you can see that. And it had eroded into it, so if it was sort of flat like that, it had eroded in like that and made a sort of cove in it. And like I said, that was after 2 hours worth of soldering, which is nothing. And I mean, now fair enough, they were the soldering bits that came with it. So my first thought was, okay, well, they were probably cheap components, so you know, it's not the end of the world. I'll maybe go and see if I can buy more heads for it, more tips. And I had a look online, and the only thing I could find was one conical tip, which is just a sort of point, and it was £7. Now, £7 for a tip isn't massively expensive. Generally, if you buy single tips, that's the sort of price range you're looking at, but it was a Parkside tip. It was the same brand of tip that came with it, and the same one that eroded away to shit after 2 hours worth of use. Not going to pay £7 for that. Yeah, I just wasn't. So it's yeah, it was not ideal. Okay, so this is U1. This is the first SOE regulator. Is this an IC? I'm not sure whether this is an IC or a transistor. I would say it's probably a transistor. Some ICs, integrated circuits, look like transistors, or you might say transistors look like integrated circuits. I don't know. That to me is an integrated circuit. That's what an integrated circuit looks like. But some of them do have the same sort of outer shell as a transistor. So I'm not sure what way it goes, or what one this is. It is a voltage regulator, is it? It's a regulator, so probably a transistor. For these 3 pins, you'll see them in orientation. There's a flat side on the transistor, so if you can see that. Yeah, there, the flat side here. And that matches up to a silk screen on the board. Just push that down. There we go. And let's bend a pin or two just to keep it in place. They're difficult to get the wrong way around because they're obviously lined up in such a way. Now, let's see. This is the this one is a BS170. BS170, and this is a field effect transistor, if I'm not much mistaken. Let's check the board. Yeah, it is. So let's get your pins out. Yeah, the gas soldering iron that I got from Parkside though, hats off, love it. If it wasn't for the tips being a bit dodgy, same as the other one, because it's the same make, same tips really. If it wasn't for that, I would definitely recommend them. As it stands, I can't recommend either of them because there is no easy way of getting replacement tips, and that's a problem. Even if the tips weren't shit that it came with, that's still a problem because it's a pain in the ass to get more tips. Yeah, to get more tips for them. So like even you would nearly be better going and getting a Chinese soldering station, like a cheap Chinese one that has the standard tips like this, because they're very easy to get. And if they're easy to get, it doesn't matter if you have shit tips, because you can buy better ones that will fit. Apologies, I'm just going to need to concentrate here for a second because these are quite close together. Cool. I'll need to check out with a magnifying glass just to make sure I haven't shorted anything, but it looks good from here. And the other one, actually a finer tip on this would probably have been a good choice. No shorts, cool. Didn't need the magnifying glass, I still work okay. So yeah, I wasn't sure whether the format of this would work or not. I was going to do it just, well, I will have cut out some bits and pieces of this, any really elongated bits of silence you will not have seen. But I was just going to do okay, I'm going to put this bit on now, fast forward through, okay, I'm going to put this bit on now, fast forward through. But to be honest, surprisingly, I talk a hell of a lot on this channel, but I never actually talk, if that makes sense. I generally don't waffle. Everything that I go to say has been thought about beforehand, and yeah, it's been thought about beforehand. Let me see, the 3-pin speaker header, so that's this boy over here. So yes, everything usually is thought about beforehand. Now for this, I'm just going to set this on the table because I need it to keep these in a bit first. And there's actually a wee trick to doing these. So there is. So because it's not fully in, it's not actually going to be sitting flat on the other side. But what you do is you give it a bit of solder. Yeah, like that. And what you do is you tilt it over, put your finger on it, apply a bit of pressure to the part that you want to sit flush, heat up the solder, and it'll then sit down flush, and that's it. And then you can carry on and solder the other bits. There you go, little tip there. What was I saying? Oh yes, format. So if people enjoy this format, let me know and say, and I'll happily do more. Like I say, I've got a ton of kits, and I'll be building all of them. It just depends whether I'll be doing them either on screen or on screen fast forwarded or what. Even I don't know. Even would you want a tutorial on how to solder, how to do stuff like this? And if you're interested, let me know. But I wanted to do, at the very least, something where I'm just sitting doing something mind-numbing and waffling shit. As I said, I'm coming up on 100 subscribers, and I was actually thinking of doing a live stream like this. Where, yeah, I'm on live stream. If I have it on this camera, I'll be able to see the chat going up and down, and actually I'll probably be able to check on the laptop on the side as well, if need be. So yeah, I was thinking of doing that some evening as a 100 subscriber special, because I think I'm at like 98 at the minute. It keeps going from 98 to 97, and I know it's probably different people, but I find it funny. I think that, oh geez, it's just one guy who's just really not sure about the channel, and he keeps going back and forward on it, Yeah, it's not the case, but also another bad practice I'm doing right now, I do not have an anti-static band on. I should. I have an electric heater underneath here that I had on, so I've got static probably everywhere. I could very well damage a component here. So yeah, again, don't do as I do. So what's this saying? This is asking me now to attach the IC socket, which is here. This little boyo. And the orientation matters on these as well. So I don't know how well you can see that. There is a wee notch just there. And that can line up to whichever way you want, really. On the pad here, you'll see one of those, that's where the IC socket fits, and one of them is a square, and that's just used as a reference point. In this case, the instructions are telling me to put the notched end to the end with the square. Let's just double check that. Install the dip socket with the notched end towards the end with the rectangular pad. So yeah, so this goes in here. Now again, this you can use the same principle as the other sockets, where you put a bit of solder on first, and then you seat it properly, and then add more solder. There we go. And to be honest, that is sitting relatively flush, but let's just, so actually I'll show you that. I know it's hard to see, but you can see the way you can see the pins coming out. You really don't want that. No, I mean, it doesn't do it any harm. It's not going to short, but it's obviously best practices. So if I heat this up again, so there we go. Heat it up again, and you'll see it's now all sitting flush. Now I can go through and solder the rest. And again, another wee best practice is to solder the far side. So you've done one corner, now go and do the other, which I'm going to do. There we go. I'm just going to do the same thing with that pin. I'm just going to check it to see if it's, yeah, okay. So the other side of that is sitting up as well. Let me see, get that oriented right. It's a bit hard to see on that, but it's sitting sort of at an angle. So same again. I'm just going to heat that up. Push it down. Nope, a bit more to go. Heat it up. Push it down. There we go. That's about as good as we're going to get. It's still slightly up, but it's not drastic, so I won't lose any sleep over it. And there we go. And with those, you don't need to trim off the legs. we go. The next thing it's asking me to do is to put on the 2 audio jacks. These are just standard like headphone cable jacks. So these will go in here. Right, these can be a bit of a pain to solder sometimes because their legs can be a wee bit beefy. Now, I'm running out of space on this phone, so I'm going to need to do this wee bit quickly. And then load up the video so that I can continue filming. Yes, I'm very limited on space on this phone. I can only film like about 45 minutes at a time. That's the audio jacks in place. Okay, so now I just need to put in the speaker and then we're nearly ready to go. So the speaker also has a polarity to it, and I cannot see for the life of me where that is. Let me see. There we go. Oh yeah, there is. There is. Oh, you'll never see it on that camera. There is a little plus notched in there, so that goes to here. No, it's a bit tight. Yeah, those holes are not quite close enough. Yeah, very much not. So I'm going to need to bend these out a bit. Yeah, they're quite a bit out, those, which is not great. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this is a very cheap kit. A very good quality kit. Oh, well, admit up to this point, everything has been hunky dory. But just that's a bit of a the only complaint I've had so far. So I can't really complain too much. Given it. So I went out there because I can only record about 45 minutes on that phone before it's out of space, and then have to go put it on the computer and come back out. So a little good practice here on your soldering iron. If it doesn't have an automatic timeout or standby temperature, turn the temperature down whenever you're leaving it for any length of time. It just helps save the tips. Good thing with this is it heats up very, very quickly, so I won't be hanging about too long. So from what I've seen, and I read through in the schematics, these push buttons are not necessary. These are, let me see, I'll actually read off the, let me see, there we go. The MSG1, MSG2 and CMD pads go to external push buttons, these, which are mounted in a convenient place to initiate pre-recorded message and command functions. So from what I understand, I can actually preload messages into this and press the button and fire them out, which is actually quite a cool wee feature that I didn't think this would have. So for any amateur radio people, you'll know this. I could pre-program my CQ call, which is a general call. So if I want to speak to someone, I would send out a CQ. And it's, so for me it would be, you know, CQ, 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 my call sign, CQ, 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 etc. But in Morse, obviously, I would need to do that in dits and dashes. So the ability to pre-record that is actually kind of handy. And just hit a button and it'll then spew it out. So that's, yeah, it's an interesting wee feature I just didn't think it would have. There we go, soldering iron is, well, it was up to temperature ages ago, but I was too busy talking. So, clean the tip. Solder on that. Just solder these speaker heads in place. So there's not a lot of the pin coming through. Just because obviously I had to bend them to get them in there. There we go. So there we go. Cool. And that is it for the soldering. Now all I need to do is put in the IC, which is the actual chip. So what you see me soldering in there, that is just a board, and that's again, it's good practice. I could have soldered this straight in, But this is good practice because it means, for one, you can be a bit more heavy-handed with the soldering iron, because if you heat this up, it doesn't really matter. If you heat this up too much, you could break it. And also, ICs can be a point of failure, so it makes it very easy to replace them should something go haywire. So let's pop this in. And particularly, as I said, my lack of anti-staticness, which I do need to fix in here. It's entirely possible for me to fry an IC. So for most of these, generally you need to bend the pins in a wee bit. So if you just give it a wee squeeze, you can then put the pins in. Yeah, you would have seen a video, I think last week, depending on when I put this up, of me talking about RF, and the guy that I was talking to, he turned around and says, how do you know all this stuff? And I've had a few people say that. They've been like, oh, you're clever, and how do you know all this? I'm really fucking not. I know things about some things because I've worked with them. Like I worked with radios for about 7 years. I know I am a lot older than what I look. I know I look about 12. But I worked with radios for about 7 years. I now work in IT, and I studied electrical engineering. We call them techs over here, so it's not quite a uni. It's sort of like a slightly lesser college, because I wasn't smart enough to go to uni, basically. Well, it wasn't that I wasn't smart enough necessarily. I was an arsehole in school. I was a wee shit, as my dad put it, and didn't pay attention, didn't do very well, and whenever I left and tried to get a job, this fucker's just not going in. Whenever I actually left and tried to get a job, I then realised, oh, this is what I need all these qualifications for, and so then I had to go tech, and actually had to resit my Maths and English because I failed them both at GCSE, and they were kind of important. So yes, for people who turn around and think, oh, you're very clever, I am fucking not. Not even slightly. Odds are you are smarter than me. I just happen to know how some shit works. And even at that, you could learn everything I know from a quick bloody Google, I'm sure. This is really not wanting to go in. I don't know, let's fight with this a bit more. Let's see, where's my pins? That's why that's bent out. In. Also, these are made like this so that you can replace them easily enough, but can be a bitch to get out, so do try and put them in the right way around the first time. There we go. There we go. Beautiful. In she blows. Okay, so there are pointer. That'll do. You might be able to see in there, or you may not. There are little pads. There are more pads, and that is to connect these switches to. I'm not going to do that just yet because I actually kind of want to mount this in a case with the paddle, so have it all as one unit, and then just have a cable coming out the back that I put to the transmitter, and away I go. So whenever I do that, I'll want to make a case for it, and from there I'll then mount these switches on the outside of that case. So this is a wee jumper header. You can see that. And actually it goes onto these 3 pins. These 3 pins are actually the on switch. I don't know how well you can read that. There's on and off written there. So we'll just put that into on just to keep it there. And I will see. I don't think I can test this yet because I don't have the paddle built. But let's see. They did have a test thing here. So let me I'll read this out so you know what I'm reading. Connect the 9 to 15 volts DC at the board connections, which is just there. There's 2 wee pads. Try sending some code. You should hear the default sending speed of 15 words per minute. Okay, now so I need to have the paddle made before I can test this, so I will do that next. So yeah, that's it. So if you want to see me actually test this, I will do that at the end of the paddle video. So I'll turn my soldering iron down again. Again, best practice, if it's sitting, turn it down, saves your head. And clean it, clean. So yes, I will do the test of this little kit in the paddle video, because then I'll have a paddle to put onto it. The fact that it runs of 9 to 15 volts is quite nice. I would have liked a header here of some shape or form on these power plugs, so that even just have the option of one, just so that you have something to run off it. Because as it stands, I've got some wire up there which is quite thick, but it's all I've got, and it's all red as well, so polarity's going to be a bitch to work out. Oh, tell a lie, do I have more wire? I might do. Anyway, irrelevant for the meantime. But yes, so if you like the format of this, just sort of unscripted waffling while constructing a kit, let me know. As I said, I was going to do something like this as a live stream for the first one, or sorry, for my 100 subscribers when I eventually get there. So I'll see how that goes. If you think that's a good idea, let me know. Apart from that, the paddle video, which I'm going to start soldering now, and I'll put it up as soon as I can. I'm going to try and do it a lot more, I don't know, build-like, if that makes sense, so it won't be as waffly, and I'll just see which one people seem to like best, and I'll go with that for the future builds. So yeah, see you later.